This
Let me
conference will
start the
now be
recording.
recorded.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So I'm just curious, is the detailed breakdown Excel sheet segregated based on the current or previous or prior year from the client end before handed over to the consultant? Or is the consultant the one like when they are uploading, they have to segregate it?
It depends on two ways. Point number one, let's say I am working as a FICO consultant, you are my client, and I am working on this data migration related to asset accounting. Now, what I will do, I will provide you a template in which I want the data from your legacy system. I can tell you separately that I want information to be passed on for the assets which were purchased in the current year in a separate sheet, and assets which were purchased in the previous year separate sheet. Now, this segregation, if you inform your client, they will do it. Otherwise, they will download what they normally do. They download the legacy data from their existing system. Let's say if they're using Oracle or any other application, in every accounting application, you will find a report called asset register. They will pull out the asset register, and this asset register they will map according to your template, whatever is shared as a FICO consultant. If you do not share any template, they will directly share the raw dump from the legacy system. They will ask us to upload this. But this approach will not work for the asset accounting. You have to be very careful. You have to be very specific what exactly you need, because majoritarily there will be minor calculation changes, minor calculation mismatches on your asset accounting. Because in their legacy system, they may be passing certain manual adjustments, or the depreciation that is charged in the legacy system may not be exactly same like how it is going to be calculated on SAP. So you need to make sure these differences, if there are any, you will be able to identify, and you will inform your client that here on the SAP, you will find these differences on depreciation because of these reasons.
Okay.
Okay, so it is always recommended that you get the data separately for current year acquisition, for prior year acquisition, because accordingly they will segregate. It's a simple task. From the capitalization date or from the purchase date, they will simply put a filter of year. Whatever is purchased in 2023, they will filter out and take it into a separate sheet or separate file. Whatever is purchased earlier than or prior to 2023, which means until 2022, they will put it in a separate sheet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, and then before uploading the current year, is it that the consultant had already like set up the master data, and then is the master say the depreciation method, is it inside the master data? Like when they are creating the master data, do they put in the depreciation method so that when they are uploading the current year, it picked up from there?
Yes. Normally, what will happen before or once your TRs are moved to production, which means once you have moved your configuration to the production system, first thing that we will be doing is we will be circulating the master data template. When I say we will circulate the master data template, first we need to know the list of master records that are applicable from your finance side and from your controlling side. From the finance side, you need chart of account list. So you will be giving a format in which they will fill out their existing chart of account. They will map it with SAP. You will upload GL account master. Similarly, customer master, vendor master, cost center master, profit center master, bank master, like this masters will be there. In the similar way, you are going to have fixed asset master. So what they will give you, they will give list of all the assets. They will simply download the asset register from their legacy system. In your template, they are going to provide you the master list. In your template, they will provide you the master list. First, you are going to upload the asset master.
Okay. All right, I see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
And what is the if the
This is interview question. What is the one-time vendor, sir? What is the one-time vendor and normal vendors?
Normal vendor is a vendor with whom you do business on a daily basis or in a regular intervals. Okay, when I say normal vendor, you normally do not require any specific approvals for creating a normal vendor. Please be on mute. Somebody, I'm not sure who it is. When you, in short, before we talk about this, whenever you talk about any master creation, especially for vendor and for customer, in every organization, the way you create master data will have a policy, will have a procedure. For example, I wanted to create a new vendor. If I wanted to create a new vendor, what I need, there will be something called new vendor create form or new vendor request form or new vendor approval form. So the person, whoever is going to procure the item or the service from a particular vendor, they will have to fill out an application form. On the application form, they need to fill out all the information related to the vendor and a supporting document to be attached. The supporting document can be either the purchase order that you are going to place or the invoice that you have already received. If this is the case, this will have to be approved by the respective person in the organization. This is from the client side. This is what happens from an end user point of view. Let's say I am an end user who wants to create an invoice, but I found that there is no vendor code for this. What I will do, I will check if the vendor master is already created or if somebody has already raised any request for master creation. Once the request is raised, it will undergo the approval. Somebody will approve it. Once it is approved, there will be a different team called master data team. This master data team will create the vendor master and confirm the vendor code to the respective person who initiated it. At this particular time, what they will do, they will open the they will open the invoice screen. They will use this vendor master code. They will pass the invoice. This is the general practice for any new vendor creation. In case if you have a one-time vendor does not require any specific set of master record. There will be a one master record. Within one master record, you are going to record multiple invoices. But yes, to record any one-time vendor invoices, your invoice must be approved. If the invoice is approved for the payment, the one-time vendor account will be used. While creating the invoice, user will update the name and address of it. Clear?
So it is not like how we are creating a normal vendor. We are not going to create a one-time vendor.
No, one-time vendor is a one-time master. That is why it says one-time vendor. Let's say my vendor code is 1. Now, whenever I'm creating, let's say I purchased from 5 vendors. I am going to have 5 separate invoices. Invoice 1 is talking about vendor A. Invoice 2 is talking about vendor B. Invoice 3 vendor C. Invoice 4 vendor D. Invoice 5 vendor E. I'm not going to have 5 separate master records for each vendor. Since these are all one-time purchases, what I will do, all the invoices I will process in the same way. I'll go to FB60 or F-43. I am going to select the same vendor code 1. The moment you provide the vendor number and hit enter, you will get the address pop-up. System will ask you to write the name and address of the particular vendor for which this invoice is related to. You have to write name and address at every transaction level when you record one-time vendor transaction. And there is a different table for it. In that table, when you put the document number, you will be able to see the vendor name, address along with the what purchase you have made for it. Okay.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I've got another question. Based on your example, the example yesterday, concerning the laptops. Say you said there like all the laptops will be created, the master data will be created for each laptops, right? So
Yes.
I think that is because of their different purchase prices and properties or other differences. So what if a company, say a company is a purchase, like say a laptop in bulk, So those 50 laptops are the same price, the same properties, the same model. Is it still possible? Is it possible for them to like group it and create a single master data for that? Or is it that because of the price or the asset tag, they have to separate it?
Normally, the group, you can do the asset for the low value asset, the assets which are having the low value, that is where you group it. Because for asset for $5, for asset for $2, I don't want to capitalize. I will group such kind of assets. I'll create one single group asset. But for the normal assets, it must be a separate asset, because on every physical asset, you need to put a asset tag. And there
So
will
is
be
that
physical verification of your fixed asset. So you need to make sure that if you have 500 laptops, you must have a record where these 500 laptops are, who is the employee, who is with whom this laptop is currently with.
so when you talk about low value, is there a certain value that like each organization will consider, or is there like general value that if okay they say the laptop costs like small in a small amount, is there like a general amount that you consider it as that's
It is based on the organization. They
specific?
feel that anything which is less than this amount, we will not create a separate master for it. We will group these kind of the similar nature of assets.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay. All right. So if there are no questions, we'll proceed with today's class.
Uh, one last question. If laptop I purchased, the company has purchased, then given to employee. So after sometimes we got some repairs and replacement in the battery levels. So how we are going to treat in the SAP level?
You purchased an asset, you gave it to this your employee, and after, let's say, after 3 months or after 6 months, the laptop has gone some repair and you got it repaired. So you got it repaired or you got it replaced.
I replaced battery.
You replaced battery. Is this
Yeah.
within warranty or not?
Yes, within warranty.
This is within warranty. We will not do anything in it, because you have not created any master record for battery. Battery is part of your laptop.
Yes, yes.
So we will not do anything. In case you purchased a new battery for it and that battery you wanted to capitalize, what you will do, you will add the battery cost into the asset. So later on you will do something called asset addition. You're adding additional value to the asset, right? So you're going to capitalize this battery to the same fixed asset, which is your laptop.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's start. If you have any questions, I'll take at the end. So we were talking about asset migration basics yesterday. We discussed current year acquisition, we discussed prior year acquisitions, and we understood how these are calculated. Now let us try to understand certain points related to implementation, because we talked about subledger, basically the customer transactions, how do we migrate it, vendor master or vendor transaction, how do we migrate it, and then assets, how do we migrate it. So we have a basic idea how the subledger is managed, how the subledger is migrated. After this, let me write certain points, then I will come back to the remaining points that we had in the transaction data, like open item GL account, non-open item GL account, your P&L accounts, how do we migrate. That is straightforward. I will explain as part of GL migration those points. Now let's talk about something related to implementation. What exactly you will do in an implementation project. So these points we are going to understand as of now only with respect to SAP FICO consultant. Considering you are in the project, what exactly the possible activity that you will be performing. We are not talking anything in general. We are talking with respect to SAP FICO consultant activity. Let's say I joined as a FICO consultant. I joined as a SAP FICO consultant. And in the implementation project, normally, as we all know, that there is something called configuration. There is something called configuration, which is the first point that comes into everyone's mind when you talk about implementation. But we need to remember certain points, that your implementation or your SAP is not just about configuration, it is beyond configuration. There is a big list of activities that you will perform as a FICO consultant. From that big list, configuration is just one of the activities. Now, before you do the configuration, first point that we need to understand, which we already discussed, something called data flow in SAP FICO. When we talked about data flow in SAP FICO, we have listed certain points. First point, we have listed business requirement. Second point, we have listed configuration. Third point, master data. Fourth point, reporting. Fifth point, support and improvement. This is what the typical data flow that happens in SAP FICO of any project.
Sir, one more point is transactional data, sir.
Yeah, correct. Point number 4, after master data, transaction data. And this will become point number 5. This is your point number 6. Okay, this is the data flow which typically is followed in any project, whether it is implementation, whether it is support, whether it is rollout. This is the point, this is the sequence that you need to keep in your mind right from the beginning in any case. Now, in the implementation, if you are thinking about configuration, first you need to see the configuration from the data flow point of view. According to data flow, your configuration is not the first activity. Your configuration is based on the business requirement. First, we need to understand business requirement. When you are implementing SAP for any organization, what we will do, we will first try to understand their existing business process, or you will do the as is business process study, or you will try to understand the current business process. According to your understanding, based on the current business process, you are going to propose the SAP business process. Your proposed process is called as business blueprint or solution design document. Initially, at the beginning of any project, you are going to have different meetings, interactions with the client. You will be conducting demonstrations, overview sessions, and then you will try to conduct different workshops wherein you are going to meet different business process owners. So you call it as key users, you call it as super users. Okay, these key users or super users or the SMEs, subject matter expert, in every module. If you're talking about SAP FICO, you're talking about GL, AP, AR, taxation, cash, bank, asset, and so on. Let's say you are going to discuss, or you are going to gather the requirement of their GL, how they are managing their GL module. You are going to meet the GL team. From the GL team, the client will arrange a meeting. From that, the key users who are contributing in the GL module, like subject matter expert and so on, they will come and meet you. They will come and meet you. They will explain their existing business process related to GL. They will tell, this is how we are using GL. We are having, let's say, 1000 GL accounts currently. This kind of entries we are passing. These are the reports that we are extracting on a monthly basis. This kind of reconciliations we are performing. These are the issues, challenges that we are facing in our current business process, and we do not have certain controls. Users are committing certain mistakes, and which will be very difficult for us to identify. They will talk about their existing process in terms of the day-to-day ongoing transactions. At the same time, how frequently they are creating the master records, how many master records they are creating, on an average, how many entries they will post, what kind of entries they are posting, what kind of reports they are extracting, and are there any challenges in their existing system? Do they have any expectations on the GL process which they are unable to meet from the existing system? Are there any reports that they are currently preparing? Are there any workings that they are making out of a system currently? Which means I need to make some report, but I don't have that option, that functionality in my existing system. What we are doing, we are extracting the different set of reports from the existing system. We are consolidating, we are preparing those kind of reports manually. Now they say that once we are into SAP, we want to bring these kind of reports automatically from SAP. We do not want to have any manual interventions like this, because these points are not having the proper accuracy. We cannot depend on these numbers. If something is going wrong, I do not know if the user who is preparing this report is genuinely preparing, or is it prepared accurately or not. They will be talking about all these points. As a consultant, if you are part of these initial discussions or workshops, meetings, make sure you are able to understand. We will be having different people along with us. Along with you, you will be having your project manager, you will be having your solution architects, you will be having the project lead or the SMEs from your consulting side, the lead consultant on and all from the FICO side will also be part of these discussions, these meetings. What they will do, once they understand these points, they will document all the information. They will understand and they will document all the information. Based on the understanding, we will prepare a document. Based on our understanding, we will be preparing a document. This is called as initial business requirement document. Based on the initial business requirement document, we are going to prepare a scope study or the business study based on the GL, based on the APAR asset. Once every module discussion is completed, you are going to compile the complete discussions, complete understanding of each and every business process, the client issues that they are currently facing, reports that they are currently extracting, any kind of a specific things that they are doing which is not industry specific or which is their own specific. They say that this report is our company specific, our management needs this kind of reporting, we are preparing these kind of reports manually. Considering all these points, whatever we discussed during the initial discussion stage, you will document everything in a rough draft. From this, in every organization, in every company, wherever you work as SAP FICO consultant, there is something called you have something called, first thing you will do, business study or business analysis, or meetings you also call workshops. People call it with different names, but one and the same. Here you are going to understand the nature of business, the basic outline of the process. Once you understand this, you will make a rough draft on the processes. Okay, you are going to make the rough draft on the processes. Based on this rough draft, you are going to prepare something called business blueprint. In short, this is called as BBP. But in S4HANA, we also call it as solution design document. This is called as SDD. You're going to prepare business blueprint. You're going to prepare solution design document. Now, this is not something that you prepare on your own. There will be a template. Normally, if you talk about any business blueprint, any solution design document, on an average, this is going to have around 100 pages. On an average, you will find around 100 pages or 200 pages or 150 pages likewise. If it is a small project, there may be 80-page blueprint, 50-page blueprint also. It all depends on the size of the organization, the modules that you are implementing. In this business blueprint, let's say on an average, let us assume that 100 pages. Out of the 100 pages, approximately 60 pages are standard. When I say out of 100, 60 pages are standard. It is going to have the standard content in it. Your business blueprint is something like, it's a standard content. It is as simple as like you do affidavit, you do notary, right? When you do affidavit, when you do notary, content will remain the same. There is only selected information which will get updated person to person or individual to individual. In the similar fashion, when you design any business blueprint document or any solution design document, more than 50% of the information is fixed, constant, will not be edited, because that is process related document with respect to SAP, and you are going to edit certain information with respect to your client business process, and these points you will be editing and you will be submitting this document to the client. Once the business blueprint or the solution design document is prepared, you will prepare this document to your client.
garam haldi ka.
Imtiaz, please be on mute. Once the business blueprint or the solution design document is completed, we are going to share this with the client. When you're sharing this with the client, you call it as initial draft. When you're sharing with your client, you're going to call it as initial draft. You're going to call it as initial draft or version 0. Version 0. You're going to have something called version management. When you send the initial draft or version 0, your client will review the document. Because the initial draft is prepared based on your business process gathering sessions or requirement gathering sessions understanding. There may be a lot of corrections, there may be changes that you add, and you may forget to include certain things. Certain processes we may write in an incorrect way, certain points we may miss out. All these points your client will review. He will come back with the different corrections. He will tell, in this process these points are missed out, you have listed the process as like this, but it is not like this, there are certain corrections in it, these points are not included, the additional point which we did not talk, you mentioned, but we were not requesting it. So all these corrections you will be making. You will make the business blueprint as version 2. The initial draft V0 will become version 1. In version 1, what you are going to do, whatever the corrections that you received or the updates that you received from your client, you are going to accommodate in version number 1. Again, you will send this version number 1 to client. Again, they will review it. You will send it again. The client will review this again. Once this document is again reviewed, he will come back with again further corrections if there are any. If there are no further corrections, he will tell that the business blueprint or solution design document that you have drafted, that you have sent, we are okay with it. This is called as your BBP or SDD sign off. This is called as business blueprint or solution design document sign off. Once you receive the business blueprint solution design document sign off, that is when you are going to start your configuration. Until your business blueprint or until your solution design document is confirmed, you are not going to start your configuration. Once you start the configuration, you are going to depend on certain documents. Okay. When you're depending on certain documents, along with the business blueprint document, you are going to prepare further more documents like key data structures. This is called as KDS document, and you are going to have something called business process master list. In short, this is called as BPML document. These are the two additional documents that you will be preparing based on your business blueprint. KDS or key data structure is nothing but all the naming conventions or codes that you are going to design. When I say this, if I'm talking about a company code creation, I need to mention what is my company code, because when you create a company code in SAP, it will ask you to create a company code with 4-digit alphanumeric key. What is that 4-digit alphanumeric key that you have agreed with your client? You will be anyways mentioning it in blueprint, but this information will have to be extracted and created separately in a document called KDS. This KDS document is a common document wherein all the modules of your SAP, whatever is implemented in your client, will be consolidated. Because if I am working on SAP FICO module, I must know what is the plant which is created. I must know how many sales organizations are getting created. I must know what is the sales or sale storage locations, division, distribution channel, and etc. from the other modules. Similarly, the other module consultant who is working on MM, who is working on SD or any other module should know what is our company code, what is our chart of account, what is our fiscal year. This kind of information the other module consultant is also supposed to know, because when they do their configuration, they are dependent on this information. Every time they cannot ask SAP FICO consultant, please tell me which company code you are creating, please tell me what is our chart of account. This kind of a dependency is not supposed to have happen in any project. To eliminate these kind of issues, these kind of dependencies, we will be creating a document called KDS, in which all your configuration related key elements are listed along with the naming convention. Once this document is prepared, this document is again confirmed by the client, because if you create a company code with ABCD, your client tomorrow should not say why ABCD, you should have created ABCK. So these kind of confusions, contradictions should not come. We will agree with all the naming conventions, logics with the client. Whatever the naming convention which is agreed by the client, those naming conventions we will be placing in KDS document. Once this document is created, this is confirmed by the client that yes, these are the codes that we are okaying for the SAP. You are going to create another thing called BPML, or Business Process Master List. When you talk about BPML, when you talk about Business Process Master List, here you are talking about the processes that are implemented in each of the business process. When we say this, if you talk about GL, if you talk about AP, if you talk about AR, in GL, there are so many transaction codes from end user point of view. There are different reports that you can execute from GL side. There are different transactions that you can pass from GL side. Similarly, from AP, AR, each module, there are different transaction codes. Each transaction represents a business process. Each transaction represents a business process. For example, I want to post a vendor invoice. To post a vendor invoice, let's say there are two type of transaction codes. One is FB60, the other one is F-43. Which transaction code are you giving, or which transaction code are you including in your business process? If it is F-43 alone, your BPML must contain F-43. If it is FB60 alone, it should contain FB60 alone. If it is 2, you must include 2. Your BPML is the list of the transactions that are used by your client. Okay, this is again process specific. Accounts payable, what are the transactions that are listed? Accounts receivable, payable, cash, bank, everything. In short, it is a list of your transaction codes or Fiori applications that are used. Once BPML is done, you are going to start your configuration. Based on this, you are going to create your configuration. When you are making or when you are creating a configuration, you are going to look at your business blueprint and you are going to look at the KDS document. These two key points you are going to consider for creating the configuration. Whenever you are doing the configuration, your configuration is strictly in development 100 client. You are going to maintain the configuration in development 100 client, which means this is also called as configuration client or golden client. Some people call it as golden client, some call it as config client, some call it as development 100. In place of 100, you can rename any 3 digits, but most commonly 100 is the commonly used client code, but certain clients will use different number also. But remember, 100 is your configuration client. When you're doing the configurations, you need to make sure you will look at the business blueprint, you will understand the KDS document, only then you will make the configuration. It is not that I know SAP FICO configuration, I have completed my course, I know what configuration steps are there. It is not the way you configure when you're in a project. When you're in a project, you need to make sure you understood the business requirement. Based on that business requirement, you have to look at the KDS document. If there are any pre-agreed naming conventions, accordingly you need to set up the system. Which means for every setting that you are doing in the system, you need to be very careful, you need to be very conscious. What naming convention you are doing, how you are putting the information, what settings you are enabling, what settings you are not enabling. If enabling, why? If not, why? So slowly we have to start thinking and understanding about these points. Okay, once you do all this configuration in development 100, you will be making testing. Once the configuration is completed, testing in development, let's say 200. I'll say development 100. Next, I will tell development 200. This development 200 is a testing client. How you are going to test in development 200? Any testing is possible once your configuration is completed. Configuration, we are making it in development 100. Testing, we are assuming that we will make it in development 200. Now here we need to move the configuration from development 100 to development 200. How do we move configuration from development 100 to development 200? There is something called TR movement. You need to understand something called TR movement. This TR movement is again of two types. Point number one, within client. Point number two, between clients. When you talk about within client, you're talking about within development. When you're talking about between clients, you're talking about development quality and production. So your testing initially that you are supposed to do is supposed to happen in development 200. For development 200, you do something called client copy of TR. So you will use SAC1 T code to move config from development 100 to development 200. This is what you are going to use to copy your configuration from development 100 to development 200. Now, how your configuration is copied, how your configuration is moved. So all configurations, whatever you do, all configurations will get recorded in transport requests. Every configuration will get recorded in transport request, in short TR. This is nothing but TRs. Now TRs again are of two types. You have two types of transport requests. One is customization request, which is nothing but CR, and the other one is workbench request. This is called WR, workbench request. Now, most of your configurations, in short, most of the configurations, most of FICO configs are CRs. Customization request. This customization request, we don't call it as CR, we don't call it as WR. Whether it is customization request or it is a workbench request, we call it as TR. Okay, this classification is like that. It is a customization or a workbench, but when you call it in real time, you call it as TR. Whether it is customization or workbench, we simply call it as TR number. Okay, but remember, most of your configs are change request, sorry, customization request, not workbench request. There are only selected areas wherein when you create IBAN number, when you create variants for your bank reconciliation, certain areas where these things are directly going to affect your program related settings in the backend. That is where you have workbench request. Whether system to generate customization request or workbench request, it is not in our hand. This is predefined by SAP. So when you save it based on the SAP standard settings, you will either get a customization request or get a workbench request. But make sure you pay attention whether it is a customization request or a workbench request. So whenever you are saving something on the system, especially when it comes to config, you need to always pay attention in which TR, in short, in which a transport request it is getting stored. Copy the transport request, maintain an Excel sheet or a notebook, write down that, and in that you can mention in this TR, these are the settings that I am making. And next point, all the TRs must be recorded used or transported in the sequential order. Okay, all the TRs must be recorded, used, transported in the sequential order, which means, let's say I have two transport requests open or two TRs open. I cannot left and right select whatever the TR comes up on my screen while saving. I need to be very conscious. I need to be very careful. First of all, I should know what I am configuring. If I am configuring, let's say GL related thing, do I have any particular open TR in which I can include this, or I need to create a separate TR for it? First, I should understand how I need to proceed with this. Accordingly, I need to make a list of the TRs that I am working on. This TR is related to these configurations. The another TR is related to different other configurations. Tomorrow, you will not be moving everything together. You need to see it from moving the changes to the next level also, from development to quality and then to production. If you are adding everything in one single TR, it will become a very difficult task. You may say that, no, you just hold on. There are other settings which I will be completing in next 1 hour. After that, I will move. There may not be that much time to wait. You need to make sure the importance or the priority of the configuration. Accordingly, you will decide whether to include it in the existing transport request, move along with it, or create a separate transport request, move it separately without having any dependency. If there are any dependencies, you must understand the sequential order, which TR should go first and which TR should go next. If we are not understanding this point, whatever the configurations that we will do in your configuration client, it will work fine. But when you move to the next level, you will start receiving different problems, because all the settings are not in the order. All the settings are not in order. Certain settings are coming first, certain settings are coming next. You need to make sure settings will move or settings will reach the target client or the next system in the sequential order. For that, as a FICO consultant or as a consultant, it is your responsibility. Nobody will tell us you have to move the TR in sequence. Everybody will feel that you are aware of these basics, that TR will be created and TR will be used in a sequential order. You will not left and right save whatever the TR comes up. You understand where you are saving, why you are saving, or if you are creating a new TR, why you are creating a new TR. If you're adding it in the existing TR, why are we adding it in existing TR? Make sure you understand why we are doing all these points. Because tomorrow if something is going wrong or if somebody is putting a question, we must be in a position to answer why we did like this. So we should not say, no, I do not know, I thought this is how we do it. So our assumptions will not work when you're in a real environment. It should be based on your understanding, which is the correct approach according to real environment. But if you assume something, if that is going wrong, we will sound very bad, and that kind of a situations we should not face. So wherever possible, we need to avoid these kind of situations, these kind of scenarios. Okay, assuming that you have moved all your configurations to development 200, which is nothing but the testing client. Now in development 200, we need to perform, we in the sense SAP FICO consultant, to perform unit testing, in short UT, in development 200. In development 200, as a FICO consultant, you have to perform unit testing or UT. Now to perform any unit testing, so to perform any unit testing, we need test cases or test scripts. If you do not have a test case, if you do not have a test script, you will not be able to perform the testing. What will you test? How you will test? On what basis you are testing? Your testing should have a meaning. Your testing will have a meaning only when you are testing based on the test case or based on the test script. So at the time of your initial business requirement gatherings, at the time of preparing your business blueprint solution design document, you understand what is the client current business process and what is the proposed business process of your client. Accordingly, you would have understood what kind of a transactions that they are carrying out in SAP. Based on that, you are going to list out the test script. Based on that, when you design the test script, you are going to add a different transaction. Test script is nothing but list of transactions carried out by an end user. Let's say end user will do 3 activities. Okay, end user activities are listed in test scripts. Now, end user activities are 3 types. First one, master data. Second one, transaction data. Third one, reports. You are going to have end user activity as master data, transaction data, and reports. You need to understand what is master data, what kind of masters you are going to create. Let's say I am going to create a GL master. Creation of a GL master will become a test script. When you create a GL master, you will display the GL master. Display of a GL account will be another test case. You are going to change the GL account. Change the GL account will be another test case. Okay. Similarly, any master, let's say cost center creation, profit center creation, any master that you have, create, display, change, delete, block, modify, whatever it is, everything is part of a master record. Make sure you are able to create a test script for it, and you are able to create, you are able to change, you are able to delete, or you are able to display. These things you need to test individually for every transaction. All these end user transactions which are classified according to master, transaction, report, you need to list out. From the master data, once you test everything, you are going to have certain observations. I am able to create, I am able to delete, I am able to change. Sometimes what will happen, the client says, I want to create this, but I don't want anybody to change it. For changing, I want somebody else to do it. Now, when you're testing, you need to consider all these points. I am creating, fine. I am changing, fine. I am displaying, I am deleting also. But is it the same case when you're in a project, once your project goes live? Is it that a user who will be able to create a master will be able to change it, will be able to display it, will be able to delete it, block it? If yes, is it applicable for all masters or only for selected masters? Your client may tell, no, Mr. A will create it and Mr. B will change it. Everybody will see it. So you need to make sure user A alone is able to create it. User B alone is able to change it, but every user will be able to display it. You are going to have requirement like this. One person is able to create it. Another person is able to change it, but everybody is able to see it. Now, to meet these kind of requirements, you have something called user authorizations or roles. As a FICO consultant, you must work on something called user authorizations and user role. Now, you will have the detailed breakup of the user list provided to you by your client, where he will tell these users are responsible for creation, these users are responsible for changing, these users are responsible for deletion or modification or display. When it comes to certain transactions, let's say data entry posting, I will tell these 5 users will be able to create invoices, but these 5 users should not create any payment. These 5 users should not see any report. They'll put lot of filters. This is the user list who will be able to, or who are working on accounts payable. From the accounts payable, we have 3 set of restrictions. One users who will post only the invoices, which means the data entry. Another user who will be able to make corrections if the data entry operator or the user who is creating invoice makes any mistake. Another user will be able to see the report. Now, I wanted to have these classifications, this segregation of duties to ensure that I am aligned with my internal audit or my compliances. You need to consider all these points. Make sure in according to that you are creating your user authorizations, your user roles. Considering all these points, you are going to perform your unit testing. During the unit testing, during UT, all the observations or issues, improvements are listed out by consultant. Now, when you are testing it, you are not testing just like that for the purpose of testing. You need to test keeping your business process in mind. You need to keep your business process in mind and then test it. It is not that you are testing the way you have practiced. That is wrong. That is why even when we practice, we need to make sure you understand the requirement. Accordingly, you will configure, you will post the entries. If you make a habit of this, tomorrow when you're in a project, you will understand what you're doing. You can easily relate your practice with your real environment. When you're performing the testing, you will be performing from your side as a consultant, in which you have to see from the business point of view whether this is required, it is not required, is this working as expected, or there are any issues that I am facing. I need to make note of all these points and I need to rectify everything in development. Again, move the configuration changes to development 200 using SAC1, in short client copy. Again, retest it. Once I am convinced that everything is working fine, I will say that my UT is completed or unit testing is completed. For unit testing, FICO consultant to prepare a UT document. When I say as a FICO consultant, when you do unit testing, you need to prepare a UT document. UT document is nothing but the test script execution document. If there is a test script which you have created like GL account creation, you will have to create a GL account, take that screenshot of GL creation and put it on the UT document. Whatever you have tested, there should be a proof that you have tested. I cannot just like that say that I have tested, it is working fine. Where is the proof of testing? Where is the proof that you have tested? Now, if I am asking you, show me the proof of testing, you cannot tell me log into SAP and then check the filter with my user ID or take the report, sort with my ID, you will find what I did. Nobody listens to you if you talk like this. Everybody wants you to submit a document of your testing. You created a GL account, make a document, a Word document, test script or unit testing document, put a case like test script number 1 or test case number 1, creation of GL account. Create the GL account, save it, take that screenshot, put it on your document and mention that GL account created successfully. Test script number 2, display GL account document, go to display GL account, display any one GL account, you are able to see it, take the screenshot, put it. Likewise, for all your test cases, whatever you have, you need to document it. When you document everything, and that is where you are going to prepare another document called configuration document. There is something called configuration document. This configuration document is nothing but whatever the settings that you are making on the system. Make sure each and every setting that you are defining on the system will be documented by you. So config steps along with SPRO path and T code and screenshots will be included in config document. Now this is nothing but normally when we search in Google SAP FICO material, and you will find different screenshots which will tell you that create company code. For that they will tell you that go to SPRO, enterprise structure, financial accounting, definition, create, copy, edit, delete company code. The same way you need to write. Whatever the way you see it on the Google document, it is exactly the same. You will have to prepare a document from your side. Now today, if you are dependent on Google, tomorrow you cannot depend on Google. Tomorrow everybody is depending on you. First, we need to avoid we are depending on something else, right? Because tomorrow you have to circulate a configuration document which will have created by your name or author your name. So your configuration document is going to have your name on it. Make sure that you will be a content writer tomorrow on SAP FICO of whatever you are doing. So we should avoid depending on Google or depending on some other material to do our configuration. Keeping the fact that tomorrow you are going to define all these things, let us practice it right from the beginning. If you're practicing it right from the beginning, it becomes a habit and you will not get into any confusion. You will not find it difficulty later on. This configuration document, when you prepare it, you need to make sure each and every step that you have done, along with the screenshot, it is included. And this is part of your documentation. Till here, whatever we are done, you are going to do it from your consulting point of view in the development system. Any questions so far? The further settings we will discuss in the next class, like from development. After this, how you will move the changes to quality system, how you are going to perform UAT or user acceptance test, what are the different other testings like regression testing, integration testing, what exactly will be your role in it, and if there are any issues, if there are any challenges, what we are going to do, how we are going to handle all these kind of things, we will be discussing in the next session. Because if you discuss everything in one session, it will be very difficult for you also to understand. Make sure the activities that we have discussed so far to be executed in development system, you are clear, you are comfortable with it. Then when we do it, when we discuss the points to be done on the quality system tomorrow, you will be able to connect easily with these points. Any questions on this you can ask.
Sir, all these activities are simultaneously done by FICO consultant, SD consultant, consultant, etc. All the consultants at a time, or how it is done, sir?
First, what will happen? There is something called baseline configuration. Okay, when you do the baseline configuration, first baseline configuration is nothing but your initial org structure. Your initial org structure or initial baseline config is performed by a FICO consultant. Because for anybody to their configuration, they need company code and certain other parameters. Correct? All these parameters will be created by FICO consultant. You will create a TR called as baseline config, and this baseline config you will release it to development 200 first. Your setting will go to first to the any system, whether it is development 200 testing client, or to quality, or to production. Once your baseline configuration is completed, every module can work independently, but every module is dependent on FICO module for the baseline config. Once your baseline config is done, so nobody has any dependency on you. If they need any clarifications, they will reach out to you. Otherwise, they will carry out with their business process. Once baseline config is done, whatever you do is called as business process configuration. Your FI business process is different, SD is different, MM is different. The common part is called as baseline config or org structure.
So
Clear?
this process is initiated by FICO consultant.
Correct. The initial process is initiated by the FICO. You're right.
Another thing, the key data structure, what you told, it is only the nomenclature, right?
Correct.
And this nomenclature is put in a common platform which is shared by all other consultants, where they can
Correct.
refer it, and there will be no confusion and they can move ahead, right?
Right. Normally, in every project, we will be creating a folder, a common folder or shared folder will be created for every project. Whatever the documentation that is created from your side, you need to place those documentation in the respective folder. Tomorrow, as a project manager, I or you have to make sure that everything is documented. All the documentations are in place. For moving from one stage to another stage, there is something called quality stage gate process. When it comes to quality stage gate process, if I want to move my configurations from development to 200, I must produce the configuration document. I must produce business blueprint, which is signed off. I must produce my BPML document, my KDS document, unit testing document, without which my TRs will not be approved for moving to next level.
Sir, what is transport request and another one is a transaction request? Both are same or different?
Transport request. What is the other one?
Transaction request and transport request.
Transport customization request.
It's
Sorry, sir, I could not get
customization
you.
or branch request.
Yes. Whenever you do any configuration, at the time of saving, you will get a pop-up asking you to select the TR number. So this is of two types. If you are doing any functional related configuration, it will give you a customization request. If it is related to any program related thing is getting updated with it, it is going to provide the workbench request. But either customization request or workbench request, in general, we call it as TR, in short, transport request.
Sir, within the client, why are we doing the testing? Because we have a separate server for that.
Yeah, whenever you do any configuration in that configuration client, you're not supposed to do any other activity apart from config. We are talking about development, quality, production. You will split development into three partitions: development, configuration client, development, testing client, development for technical development like ABAP related programming client. So ignore about ABAP programming. As a functional, we are going to have two clients or two partitions within development, one for configuration, one for testing. You're not supposed to test where you're configuring.
Okay. And as is and to be document, is it a part of business blueprint?
Yes. Correct.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I have one question. Sir, who is moving this transport request from development 100 client to testing 200 client? Is it the FA consultant only or how, sir?
No, any TR release from development to development, which is within the client, is by the respective consultant. If it is related to FICO, as a FICO consultant, you need to move it to development config to development config to development testing. No basis involvement here. You will use SCC1 transaction code. You will only release it to development testing a client. No basis here. Basis will come into picture for quality and production movement. Even in for quality, in certain projects, as a FICO consultant, you can only release to quality. But in certain projects, even for moving it to quality, you need to request basis consultant to do it. But for production, strictly by basis.
Okay. Again, we need to explain the situations to business consultant also.
Which one? Sorry.
Again, we need to explain the situation like to move the transport request. We need to explain to the basic consultant, or they will only get to know.
No, we need to inform them. You need to send an official email. In that email, you are going to mention that please move the below transport request to the quality system or to the production system. For moving any TR to the quality system, no documentation is needed majoritarily. But for moving any transport request to production, you need to maintain certain document checklist. Your configuration document must be prepared. Unit testing document, UAT testing document, user confirmation, business approval must be there before you send an email to basis. Based on this document checklist, basis consultant will release the TR to production.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Got it.
Ajay, I have a question over here. Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Arya. So the question is like you said, like from the 100 client to 200 client, you are moving the TR through transaction code. Yes, yes.
SCC1.
Yeah. So the thing is like you release the TR over here, or what you do? Actually, you need to release the TR over here. And if suppose like there is a mistake, you are like you got to know like after release the TR over here, like there is a config mistake or something, and you need to do changes over here. But this is like the moment you will release the TR, you can't work on the same TR. I'm not sure. Like you will release the TR over here from the development 100 client to 200 client.
Yes,
Have it.
let me write down here.
And sir, what is the difference between client and server?
Okay. Let's say this is, I'll say development 100. This I call it as development 200. Development 100, I will tell.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. Can you please add system also? What is system? What is client? And I mean difference server.
Okay, I'll write down one by one. Okay, in development, you are going to have two clients. One is your 100 config, the other one is testing. Next one, you are going to have quality. Quality, we will have only one client. There will not be multiple clients within quality. You normally have, I'll say QAS 200. Next, I'll say production. This I'll say production 100. Now, if you see this, in development alone, you have two different servers. In quality, in production, it is a single server. Now, TR has got two statuses. Okay, there are two status for your TR. One is modifiable. Second one is released. One is modified, one is modifiable. Second one is released. Let's say you have a TR. Let's say I'll put TR 123. When my TR is in, when I start my configuration, I am going to get a TR called 123. And when I release the TR from development 100 to development 200, when it is here, or when it is at blue, when the TR becomes blue, this is modifiable. When the TR is blue, it is modifiable. You are going to have blue until development 200 only. Once you are in development 200, your TR is modifiable, which means additional configs or modifications are possible in the same TR again. You can add or you can modify the existing changes in the same TR in the development 100. Again, you will move the same TR to development 200 because this is within client. You are not crossing development. Within development on the same TR, you can work multiple times. The moment you release the TR from development to quality, this becomes orange. The moment TR has come to the quality system, then it becomes released. Once this becomes released, no changes possible. No changes possible. We must create another TR for changes or new configs. Once it turns released, here also this will be released only, because once it is the status with released, even when it goes to production, it will be released only. No changes are allowed. Clear? So here this is by or released by FICO, and here it is released by basis. Let me not write FICO. Only in some projects you will release it in FICO, but in most of the projects this is released by basis. Here also this is released by basis. Clear?
Ajay, once the testing is done in quality, the TR's movement to production is from development or from quality?
From production. There is something called import. We don't export the TR, you will import the TR.
Import in the production?
Yes. They
Import in the production from quality or development?
Development only, not from quality.
Okay.
They use this T code, stms_import for importing the TR.
Sir, one doubt.
Ajay,
Yes. I will take a separate session on this TR movement. There I'll cover different other things. Now I'm explaining only at base high level to make you understand what is what, so that these things will be in your mind when I talk about different other things going forward. Yeah, please go ahead.
So you said like the TR is moving from the like final TR moving from the development to the production. That's what you said. But you're doing like testing and everything in the quality. Then how this is possible? Like TR is moving from the development to the production.
We are not moving the TR, we are importing the TR. We are not exporting from development. You will log into production system. From the production, you will import. You will come here and you will pick the config from here.
So you saying you importing from the development, it's from the 200 or it's from the 100?
100. It's always 100, not from 200. Config is in 100.
Okay, so like when you creating the like TR, like specific TR for the, it's according to the model wise, like for example for the business partner 1 TR and for the GL for the 1 TR, kind of how to segregate the TR actually. It's according to the like it depends upon the client's requirement. Client will tell how to maintain the TR, how it is.
No, if it is the implementation project, what you are going to do, you are going to split according to 2 points. Point number 1, baseline configuration. Point number 2, business process configuration. For baseline configuration, where you are going to do company, chart of account, fiscal year, all these settings, you will have one separate TR, wherein you will include SAP FICO baseline configuration, and then followed by you will put either your employee ID or your short name on it, because tomorrow when somebody sees it, they want to know this is done by you. Next one, when you configure the business process like GL, AP, AR, assets, taxation, you will be creating a separate TR for GL settings, separate TR for tax settings, separate TR for accounts receivable, business partner and all. This is one approach. When you're on implementation project, once your baseline config is completed, you can do all the TRs. Sorry, you can do all your settings in single TR also. That is also possible, because at the end to the production system, you are going to move all the TRs together. Only then it will work out, even when you move it to quality. And the other side, when you're testing it on, or when you're creating it on a project which is already gone live on SAP, that is where you are going to create a TR based on the change request. Change request is nothing but the request that somebody had asked you to make the additional configuration or the change the existing configuration.
Okay. And one more question, like when you create the business partner, like from the finance side, you create like a finance vendors or customers. But what about when sales team create like customers and vendors from the MM? How that config moves, like it's like, because there are 3 consultants working on one business partner. Any config related to the payment terms or something, like sales team is coming in between. So how like 3 consultant TR, like how it TR moves, like all together, how it will be work? like kind of payment terms, like getting credit from the finance side also and from the sales also. So how it that here will be more actually.
Payment terms, this is pure FICO. This is FI, SD, MM together. In this, you have AP baseline, AR baseline. So when you talk about AP baseline, you're talking about vendor account group, vendor number ranges, vendor number range assignment to the company, the account group, and the tolerance related to vendor and customer. Here also same. These 2 points are done by your side. The BP related settings. BP related settings for customer by SD. BP related settings for vendor by MM. Now here you are going to have the TR sequence. Sequence number 1, FICO. Sequence number 2 can be SD. Sequence number 3 can be MM. But first TR must be yours, because without vendor account group, without vendor number range, without the assignment of this, while doing a BP related setting, it is not possible. Your BP settings are dependent on FI, the basic vendor account group number range settings. Okay, we need to make sure that TR sequencing.
Thank you very much, sir. I got it.
Ajay, can you explain so within the transports what is called a workbench transport and what's also referred to as transport of copy, a copy of transport?
Now in development, you are going to have 2 servers. So when we will be talking about system landscape TR movement in detail. Now within development, you will have actually 3 partitions. One for configuration, wherein the functional consultant will do their configuration. Second one, whatever the configuration you are doing, you need to make sure this configuration is working fine or not. To make sure that your configuration is working fine or not, you need to perform testing. Now it is strictly not advisable that you test where you are configuring. To make sure that your configuration is untouched, your configuration is clean, you are going to have 2 separate partitions for every functional consultant, one representing the configuration, the other one representing testing. In configuration, whatever you do, you are not going to test anything, and on the testing side, you are not allowed to do any configuration. There is something called modifiable, non-modifiable client. When you say modifiable, non-modifiable client, development 100 is modifiable client, which means configuration is allowed. Development 200 quality production are non-modifiable client, which means even if you want to make any changes in the configuration from development 200, you will not be able to make. Let's say you created a setting. Let's say you created a company code, and if you go to the company code screen on the development 100 client, you will find an option called new entries. Wherever you find the configuration and new entries, configuration change options, that is your modifiable client. In development 100, you will be able to modify, you will be able to create a new one, and you will move it to development 200. Once the changes are moved to development 200, assuming in 200 you realized you have given name or the address incorrect, you have given a dot or you have given additional space or some typo error. Now since you realized it in development 200, if you try to fix it, if you try to correct it in development 200, let's say in development 200 you opened company code screen. The moment you open that company code screen, you will get a message stating client development 200 is non-modifiable. There, even if you try to click on change mode, even if you try to click on new entries mode, they will be disappeared. You will not find those editable options, you will not find new entries option in development 200, because the basis team makes development at 200, quality production is non-modifiable client. Impossible that you can change there. The only option is go back to development 100, make whatever the changes that you have based on where you have identified this. If you identified within development 200, you will have an open TR, which means the modifiable TR. Include your settings in it, again release it to development 200, client copy. If you realized it in quality, by the time you reached quality, your TR has become non-released. If the TR status is released, you cannot make additional settings in it. The only option is go to development 100, create a fresh TR, move it to quality. Clear?
Okay, Ajay, somewhere above you did mention that to move the TRs, it has to be in a sequential order. This sequential order, is it a standard? Is it an SAP standard, or the FICO creates that? And what is this sequence?
The sequence, nobody will tell us. The sequence is something the person who is creating configuration must know. Let's say I am creating, let's say I am writing this. This is what is my requirement to write. Let's say I have written A. I've written something like this: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. This is what I have written, and this I moved in TR1. Sorry, this I've moved in TR1, but later on I realized that I have given C as capital, C as a small letter. Now this is moved to quality. In quality, my client has seen this during UAT, or you realized it. C should have been capital, but it is small. Now the TR is already released. Is it okay, or I need to change this small c to capital C?
Need to change it.
We need to change from small c to capital C. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to write everything again. I'll simply put C as capital, or I'm going to make it A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now this is my TR number 2. Now if I do the TR release, let's say first I release this. If I put sequence number 1, this will come to quality system, and after this, if I release this TR, this is replaced by this. Now if I move the TR in the wrong sequence, is my data getting updated incorrectly or correctly?
Correctly.
What is this? Do you want to continue? Now if I move TR2 first, and after that I move TR1 to production system, what will be the final output in my production? Is this blue or is this green? Which will go to production if I move TR in this sequence?
Blue.
Green.
Great.
Green will go to production, correct? Because I'm moving TR2 first, after that I'm moving TR1. So whatever goes the last, that will be the final one. So this will be the production. So my production will have wrong data or correct data?
Wrong data.
Wrong data.
This is going to have wrong data. Now who has to decide which one to go first, which one to go next? Is it something decided by other consultant or the consultant who created the TR?
Who
The
created
consultant who created
Who
the
created it here?
Right? The consultant who created the TR must know which one to go first, which one to go next. So that is why whenever you do any change, any configuration, you must know what setting you are doing, in which TR you are saving, and for these things to work proper, what is the correct sequence. In any implementation project, in any implementation project or wherever you are having multiple transport requests. Your basis consultant will not ask you to provide the TR in sequence. It is your responsibility to move the TR in sequence. Because if two TRs are open with you, certain settings you may be adding here, certain settings you may be adding here. Sometimes we may not be paying attention towards that, but certain mistakes will happen. So settings will get overwritten. There are dependent settings. If setting 1 is there, setting 2 is possible. If setting 2 is there, setting 3 is possible. These three settings may not be in same TR. These three settings may be in different TR also. You have different possibilities. Considering all these parameters, we need to make sure what we are doing is logical, and you should have a clarity on what settings you are doing, in which TR you are saving. Tomorrow if somebody is asking you, you must be in a position to provide TRs in a sequence. In any implementation project, every TR will be moved in the sequential order. This is one of your interview questions. How did you move your TRs to production? If you're not using the term called sequencing, you have not worked on any implementation project. Even though you explain everything properly, you are missing a simple term called sequence. You're gone, that you have not worked on implementation project. I came to know because you're not telling that you have moved the TRs in a sequential order. Everything will go messed up if you are missing the sequence.
So Ajay, I have the question over here. Actually, when you do any mistakes in production and when you get realize, okay, the config is wrong or so what will be after the changes and everything? It's called CR request or something. How it will be like after the production?
If your project is gone live, then it is called as a change request. If your project is not gone live, it is not called as change request. Change request will come into picture once your project has gone live.
Okay.
Clear?
Is clear, sir. Thank you.
Sir, in quality server, only the client checks whether the configurations are done correctly or not.
No, client will not know about the configurations. Client will only test whether the process is working fine or not. They will be testing based on the master record transaction report, whether it is working fine as per their requirement or not. If it is not, they will tell you that no, this is coming wrong or these errors are coming. Based on that, you are going to verify whether the config is right or not. Because in general, the way we test in development, the way user tests in the quality system is completely different. Unless you have the practical experience, you will not understand why we are testing in development, why we are again testing in quality. Let's say for an example, you are testing vendor invoice. Normally for you to test a vendor invoice, how you will test? You will take any vendor, you will take any expense account, you will take any amount, you will take any profit center, and you will post it. Agree?
Yes, sir.
This is how we will test it. But when your user is testing, he is not going to test like that. He will take the live invoice copy of a supplier. He will take the original invoice copy. He will say that I will post this invoice in the quality system. Tell me how to post this in the system. And there, if you're not aware how an invoice is posted in a real environment, the way we tested in development is not going to help us. Now he will tell that this is my invoice copy. Please tell me how do I record this invoice in SAP. And they will tell that on the physical invoice, whatever the information is there, they want to make sure the exact information is captured on SAP, because they will be using the same invoice in their existing system. They want to make sure how I will capture this invoice in the SAP system, what changes are there, whether everything is getting captured properly or not.
So that will be done by the client in quality server, right?
Yes, quality server along with us.
When you're doing testing in quality, you getting any transactional data? How you like how you UAT get signed actually? How will get to know like how they will
When
test the
you
data?
do a UAT, we will have an official meeting scheduled.
Okay.
Okay, so if you are working in the on-site client location, so we all go and sit in a conference room. So somebody will project the system, so some of the users, and then you will be also there in that UAT session. Let's say somebody wants to create a vendor. They will say that they'll go to business partner screen, they'll try creating a vendor. Now, whenever they're creating, they will take the live data. It's not that the way we test, you take any vendor, any name, mandatory fields you will input, you will save it. But your client, when they are doing UAT, they will take the actual vendor, they will try to create it. They may be using some other fields which we may not see, which we may not test in development. Now in development, since we are testing only with the mandatory fields, we may not receive certain errors. But in quality, user will tell that I want to capture vendor some XYZ information. Can you tell me where should I capture this? Now he may say that,
So,
okay, you can capture this. And when you capture it, he might ask, can I see this in report? That we may not be aware of it. I'm not sure. Then what you will do, you will open that vendor report, master report, you will verify if this particular field is appearing or not. If it is appearing, fine. If not, you need to make sure this field is captured in a specific location where this will be part of your report.
Okay. And the quality itself, like you need to be prepared like a test script and UAT documents. After that, only like end user can test the config. Now, is that right? Like this our work, like UAT and write down the test script for the end user.
No, UAT is end user. Test script is our work. Whatever you are testing, let's say before you start testing in development, you have something called a test cases or test script list. This test script list you will create, and based on your UT test script, your client is not aware that how do I test it, what do you mean by UAT, correct?
No, yes, right. So you
What you are
saying
going to
like you
do,
need like 2 documents over there, UT and the test script.
correct, you are going to submit the UT document that you have done from the development system and the test script that you have used. You are going to share the UT document test script to the client. You will tell in the similar way you test it and place the screenshots, prepare a document, send it to me.
Okay. And what about the stage gate meeting, Ajay, like they call stage gate meeting? What is the stage
Stage
gate
gate is nothing but you'll be having different stages, you'll be having different phases in your project. For moving from one stage to the other stage, you need to pass the quality stage gate. Let's say I want to start my configuration. Before starting the configuration, I need to make sure my business blueprint is signed off. Without getting the BPP signed off, I cannot start my config. Now I want to perform my UAT testing. Before I do my UAT testing, I need to make sure all my transports are released to quality. Before any transport released to quality, I need to make sure all the documentation related to development is made. Like BBP is in place, your BPML is in place, test scripts are in place, config document is in place, UT document is in place. Only based on this, your project will move on to the next level. Otherwise, there will be no control, right? If you are going without tracking everything.
Okay, got it. Ajay, can you help? Like, can you make the list of all the document they call in the short form? Actually, we get confused. Like, what is this document? Like BPP, KDS, all this. Like, is it possible you can like
Yes,
give one list
I'll do
and
it.
which stage like this document is coming under? Which phase you using this naming convention like BPP, KDS? The long short forms actually we're getting confused actually on which phase this naming convention is coming, which document is coming.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Thank you.
So, Ajay, can you please clarify the use of the word? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, please, can you clarify the use of the word client, starting from the level of licensing and how it relates to the different branches that we are seeing going down? And then I'm a bit confused when you say client and then the number of servers that at the end of the day the client is using.
Exactly, sir. Can we have a separate discussion on
Yeah, I'll
client and
explain all these points. I'll explain. along with the standard SAP definitions. Okay, when you call a client, your client is basically a 3-digit numeric code. Now, before we understand the client, we need to understand the system landscape. In your system landscape, you are going to have 3 servers. Server or the client is one and the same. People use it, the frequent terminologies. Somebody say which client I should log in, or which server I should log in. They say which system I should log in. So client is frequently replaced by server and system also. Your client talks about in which SAP database you are currently working on, whether you are working on the database of development configuration or development testing or quality or production. So this is identified by a 3-digit numeric number. This 3-digit numeric number is the setup made by the basis consultant at the time of a system installation. Okay, we will have a separate session on understanding this client, all this naming conventions. I will give the detailed list of SAP standard descriptions.
Okay, sir.
Once we are on the configuration screens, or once we start using SAP, that is where you will get to clarify all these points. Because if we discuss these things theoretically, it leads to unnecessary confusion. Okay, once we are on SAP, I'll clarify all these points practically, where you will use, how you will use, what are the alternative names we use for each.
Ajay, I joined the session today. So how many session is already completed? Am I joined like a second session or third session today?
This is 5th session. The previous 4 sessions I will share with you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'll
Hello, sir.
take the next questions. I'll take the remaining questions tomorrow. I need to step out. Okay, I am running late for something.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Tomorrow morning at what time you will be taking the class?
Yeah, just a minute. Let me stop this
So
recording,
weekend
then
class.
we'll talk about it.